Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a really interesting Caitlyn supplementary guide. Today we're going to be talking about Lethality Caitlyn. Now, that's a pretty interesting Caitlyn build that I've tried out a couple of matches, quite a good number of matches honestly, and I'm of course going to be bringing you guys the explanation for it. Okay, so first things first, of course, don't forget to check out Caitlyn's basic guide that I will link up in the cards above. Of course, this will tell you her skills, leveling order, tips and tricks, as well as some combos. Okay, so let's jump straight into talking about the build. So this build, basically, it's a mix of lethality and crit. So as you guys can see, we first start off with a pure lethality item, being Youmuu's Ghostblade, which is going to give us, of course, the AD ability haste, the 15 armor pen, as well as, of course, the momentum passive, which is going to give us extra attack speed when you proc it. So this is pretty much the best lethality item and best first lethality item you can possibly get out of all of them, unless you need Serpent's Fang. But this is pretty much going to be your best option, and you're going to transition into lethality and crit. So here next you go for more lethality. Of course, you get 8 armor pen from your Boots of Dynamism. Then you transition into Collector, which of course serves its purpose of giving both crit as well as armor pen. So here you get another 10 armor pen. You get, of course, your for the AD, and of course you get your crit. So you get both crit and armor pen. Of course you get that satisfying passive as well. And then you go into Essence Reaver. Now, Essence Reaver is a very common item at this juncture for most lethality users anyway, like I don't know, like Kane, or like maybe not Kha'Zix, but yeah, for lethality users, because of course this increases your damage you deal on your abilities by up to 30%. So at this point it's going to be 25% because you have 2 crit items. When you reach full build, it's going to be 30%. So now you have your lethality items, and then you've gone into crit. So you don't want to go for more lethality, because at this point lethality is going to fall off because you're in the late game. So you want to go for legit armor penetration, which is going to be your LDR. So LDR is going to give you, of course, 30% armor penetration. It's also going to give you the crit, of course, which will allow you to actually hit 100% crit on your last item. So, for the last item, you're going for Bloodthirster. Now, why are you going for Bloodthirster and not IE? The main reason for this is, at this point, you are kind of going for like a one-shot kind of style gameplay. You don't really need IE because your Q can't actually crit. It's only your auto attacks that can actually crit. So, if you go for IE, it's kind of wasted. Whereas if you go for Bloodthirster, you can get lifesteal off of your first ability, and you can also get lifesteal off of basically all your physical sources, like your ulti, your physical, your auto attacks, as well as, of course, your first ability. So it's generally more useful. So if you have a lot of shielding on the enemy team, you want to get Serpent's Fang instead of Youmuu's Ghostblade. So in this particular match that I'm playing, this was indeed the case, so I went for Serpent's Fang instead of Youmuu's Ghostblade. So for the runes, what I like to go for is First Strike, of course, because you're trying to one-shot someone. Obviously, First Strike is the way to go, and not like Conquer or not like Lethal Tempo, because you want to one-shot someone, hopefully, and yeah. And then you go for Brutal for extra on-hit damage. It's still going to be really useful, especially in the early game in lane where you can bully people down. And of course, Coup de Grace against low HP enemies. I honestly don't even take Giant Slayer, because with lethality, Giant Slayer is not really going to help all that much anyways. And I actually take Legend Alacrity here, and I don't actually take Bloodline. And the reason for this is I have no attack speed from this build at all, so I need the attack speed from my runes. And lastly, I go for Bone Plating for my defensive capabilities. Now, you could also technically go for more lethality by going for Sudden Impact, which you can proc with your E, but I don't really think that's a good idea, because I think you need the defensive stats from Bone Plating. So anyways, for the spells, you can go for Flash with Exhaust if there are assassins that can jump onto you, which is the case in the match I played. But in general, you actually want to go for Ghost, because even though you're not really playing an auto attack style, you still will auto attack a lot when you wait for your ability cooldowns, and having Ghost is still really useful to just kite in and out of fights. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into the gameplay, where I will discuss more about whether this build is good or not. Okay, so now moving on to our gameplay itself. So first question is, are we going to go for this build often, or is this build even good? By the way, guys, as you guys can see, we actually kind of fixed the setup where now my minimap and the champion portraits are actually at the corners, and it's more like real estate to actually see what's going on. But enough about that. Should we actually go for this build? Well, pretty much my short answer to this is no. Why is this the case? Well, basically, as we know, this is a lethality version of Caitlyn. It's pretty fun to play, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty fun to play to, like, one-shot people with your Q and your ulti. However, if you wanted to play Lethality, you could go for other better options, and by better options I mean Varus. Like Varus with Lethality is a lot better than Caitlyn Lethality because you know, you have a lot longer range, a lot more reliable CC, you can peel for yourself with your ulti, etc. Whereas Caitlyn can't really do that. And yeah, so if you wanted to go for Lethality, just go for Varus. If you wanted to play Caitlyn, just play Caitlyn with her normal build. Now, I saw this build kind of getting a little bit of traction, so I did want to, of course, give it, you know, a good old try and see if it was good or not. Now, the answer to whether is this good or not, the answer is it really isn't bad. You can see that we're doing really decent damage. Of course, this is now just base Caitlyn. Whether you had Lethality or not, there really is no difference at this point in the game, except for taking first strike. But honestly, in terms of damage output, surprisingly, I expected this build to fall off late game. But surprisingly, when there are multiple games that I reached like 4 items, and I dealt the same damage as the enemy, like Jinx, for example. Like not in this particular match, but in other matches, I did do like similar damages to hyper carries. Now, it could be argued that this could be because I deal a lot of damage throughout the game, whereas they only scale up at the late part of the game, so they, you know, they end up only ramping up in damage at the very end, so it ends up balancing out to about the same damage. But the point still stands that in the course of the whole game, a lot of times you will deal similar damage to the enemy ADC, unless of course your enemy ADC gets incredibly fed, and in which case playing any ADC, you're gonna get out damaged by them anyways. So the damage output is honestly pretty decent. And of course, it's also really easy to proc first strike on Caitlyn because she has really long range and it's not very easy to remove her first strike. That's one of the kind of pros you have of having the long range as well. So overall, what I'd say is this build is viable, definitely. It's viable. You could play this in ranked, and I would not, you know, be too angry about it. But you know, some other people probably will think you're trolling. But overall, I think that this build is good, is viable, but there are just a lot of better options. Is the final answer. It's good, but there are a lot of other better options. So yeah, so now let's jump into you know, discussing what's actually going on here. You can see that in the early stages of the game, you play Caitlyn as per normal. Basically, you're playing her very aggressive, trying to poke the enemy champions on a lane, which we did do once successfully. Unfortunately, Lulu took a pretty greedy recall and did end up getting caught and gave a kill over to the enemy Lux, which pretty much undid all of our efforts in terms of like zoning them away from minions, poking them down, etc. So you can see that me and Jinx, sorry, have very similar goal, and of course Lux has more gold than Lulu because Lux obviously got the kill. So ends up being a little bit of a disaster, but you know, it's still all good. Remember, of course, to put down the traps in the tower to kind of limit their walking space. Is gonna, of course, help a lot in terms of, you know, catching them out and doing extra damage when they step in the traps, or having to walk around the traps and giving you more time to, of course, DPS them. So here, of course, Caitlyn is a lot stronger than Jinx in the early game, so you don't have to be too scared. Here we got a pretty nice buffer onto the Lux binding, and Lux probably auto-targeted her ult, which caused her to target Lulu. So here we're just going to of course just continue to farm, continue to just clear minions, and continue to poke down the enemy champions whenever we get the chance. Of course, especially with the first strike, you want to, of course, try to land Qs if possible to proc your first strike and to get some gold to, of course, accelerate your income a little bit more quickly, and of course get your items a little bit more faster. And yeah, so first strike overall over the course of the game does give you quite a lot of gold, especially when you start to get 1 or 2 items and you start to, of course, hurt. So this is going to be a pretty long game. You can probably already see from the length of the video. It's a pretty long game. It's a lot of back and forth, a lot of huge fiestas, and yeah, it's one of those kind of games I kind of love and hate those kinds of games at the same time, because obviously on one hand they are really fun where the game lasts very long and a lot of the times it comes down to one fight, but on the other hand, you know, it also lasts very long, takes up a lot of time, and especially if you end up losing the game, it kind of feels bad. So yeah, Dragon's coming up real soon. We managed to get some plates, and we're gonna quickly back to actually pick up our Serpent's Fang. Now, I noticed Kha'Zix is on the opposite side of the map, so I'm not really in a huge hurry to make it back here because obviously Kha'Zix is going for the Herald, whereas the enemy team is going for the Dragon, so there really isn't a point to rush back to the lane. Obviously, we're not contesting Dragon at all, and Kha'Zix should be able to get the Herald before the enemy team rotates over, if they're even going to do that. So overall, it's just a trade, so we have a pretty quote-unquote extended laning phase because you know, we did not actually have any fights at any objectives. So here we're back in lane versus the Lux and the Jinx, and we're back basically back to the same game plan of farming and poking at the same time. And yeah, honestly, nothing too exciting is happening in terms of the lane. It's literally been an isolated 2v2. We have not gotten ganked by Kha'Zix, nor has Fizz actually ganked us. So pretty much all we're doing here is we're just playing 2v2, and of course we don't quite mind that because obviously overall we should be able to win the poke battle against the Lux as well as the Jinx. Although if we get caught by the Lux, this could of course spell trouble, could eat a full Lux combo into a Jinx rocket, and we could be of course sent back to our fountain. So here you can see we're proccing the first strike. The Q into headshot combo gives us 33 gold with 1 item. You know, not too bad. So here you can see we've gone for the Serpent's Fang mainly because of the Lux. The Lux shield is going to be huge, especially because she's building support. So, you know, we're going to cut the shield that she gives to her entire team. Galio also has a shield on his passive. Yone also has a shield on his W. So we're cutting a lot of shielding by going for the Serpent's Fang. It's a pretty high value item here. Fizz finally comes in. Not really to gank us, but I believe he was going for the Kha'Zix, but Kha'Zix does manage to actually escape, so we are able to kind of provide him a little bit of covering fire to, you know, dissuade the enemy team from over chasing. So once again, we're just trying to perhaps get a little bit of tower plays, get a little bit of poke as well. Lux is really low, give her a hit shot and another auto, but unfortunately she survives, and no real point ulting her because Jinx is going to block, so there isn't really any reason to waste the ulti. So instead here what we're going to do is we're just going to clear out the minions again, and hopefully we can shove the tower down. The turret planes have just fallen, which means that the tower is going to be very squishy, so we can quickly just take down this tower, secure the tower, and we can of course go ahead and back. Now in the meanwhile, taking stock of the rest of the map, we have a 0 and 7 Aatrox in the top lane who's also gone for Serpent's Fang as a first item, which is pretty nasty because it means that he's not only 0 and 7, but he's also not even tanky because he didn't go for like Black Cleaver or anything like that, so it's kind of a disaster there. The rest of our team though, Kha'Zix is doing fine, and Vladimir is doing fine as well. In fact, they're both kind of slightly ahead of their counterparts, or rather I should say Vladimir is slightly ahead of the Galio, whereas Kha'Zix is slightly behind, but yeah, not too significant, except for of course the fact that we have a 0 and 8 Aatrox now. So as a result, we have a 7, 0 and 2 Yone, who's of course incredibly fed at this point. So he's the main one we want to look out for, because he has like 8k gold, you know, at 8 minutes. So he's super duper fed. He can easily just one-shot us. So here, we're just continuing to push in. You can see Galio is of course in the mid lane. He does probably have his ult, and here is the Yone that we've been scared of, and in comes Fizz from the side as well. Pretty much the moment they two show up, we are going to be dead, especially because Fizz cut off our escape from the side, which is really well played by him. And we do end up dying, of course, because we kind of got foreman ganked. And of course, this was a mistake from us. We definitely pushed up way too far, especially because our team was not applying enough pressure to keep the enemy team in their lanes. Obviously, Aatrox is not gonna, you know, incentivize Yone to stay in that lane for any kind of reason. So Yone is definitely just gonna roam and cause chaos by killing us. And of course, Fizz, being the jungler, spots us really overextended, pops over as well, and picks up some kills. So anyway, you can see that currently, in terms of KDA, we're 0, 1, and 0. So not too hot in terms of KDA, but you can see that in terms of gold, just because of all the tower plates we got and all the first strike gold, you can see that we actually have more gold than our 2 and 0 Vladimir. So you can see that kills is not really everything. Sometimes it's also just about farming efficiently and, you know, and such. So Here, you know, fight over the next dragon is up. We're trying to avoid the Fizz's damage. Lulu with a nice ulti to both knock up the Fizz as well as save herself. Now, I was trying to ult the Fizz, but unfortunately I ended up ulting the wrong person. It was really difficult to target onto the Fizz. He went out of vision. Here, Fizz is trying to go onto me. Lulu tries to shield me and is able to save my life. And my team is pretty much winning the team fight. Only Yone is left alive. Of course, Yone is really fed. Finally, we managed to actually pop on over and we actually managed to finish the kill onto Yone, which is huge because we just got a 10 kill bounty off of the Yone. In fact, it is such a big bounty that I can't even get it all in one shot. I only got, not only, but I've gotten 1k from his bounty, and he still, of course, has more bounty when he revives, just simply because of how obscenely fed he is. Of course, that's how the bounty system works. And yeah, so now we're gonna bang. We have picked up the collector. Of course, we already have the boots of dynamism, so we are of course getting all the lethality that we're gonna have for the rest of the game. And now, of course, we're gonna go into crit, which is going to be, of course, the Essence Reaver itself. So here now we're progressing into like the mid stages of the game, and you can see that in terms of gold wise, we're actually doing really well. Like we have 9.5k gold now, more than everyone in the enemy team except of course the Giga Fed Yone, which of course does make sense. So you know, we're in actually a pretty good spot. We haven't really seen the one-shot kind of potential from me just yet. Hopefully we'll see it soon, but yeah. So I'm gonna now take this time to point out one of the problems of this build. So the problem of this build is the fact that you build lethality means that your build is going to fall off if you reach late game. Like by the time you reach full build, if you get to that point in the game, you're gonna get outscaled by basically every other ADC. Because obviously you're building like lethality, so this means that all your damage is coming from like your spells. So you're almost like a mage in the sense that your damage comes from your Q and your ulti. Whereas other people, their damage comes from their DPS, like their auto attacks. So they are gonna out DPS you if you can't one-shot them. So anyways, here a kind of huge team fight just breaks out, and here I'm trying to of course help my team out. Here I get the ult onto Galio, and I realize that he's dead, so I'm gonna just head over to bot and not waste any time. No point just chasing the Fizz, you know, as a whole team. So I'm gonna let them clean up the kill, and I'm gonna head over to bot lane to not waste any farm here. Just gonna pick up all this juicy CS. Next wave is of course coming in as well, and we are of course gonna want to pick that up as well. In the meanwhile, my team is actually pushing down mid. And they're actually gonna go for, looks like they're going for the mid inhibitor, although everyone's respawning on enemy team. So this is a really bad idea. I'm pinging them back, but they are kind of overstaying and, you know, of course, getting some negligible damage on the inhibitor. Vladimir pays for his sins, and Kha'Zix is now on the run. Fortunately, Yone used his soul unbound, and he has to hop back to his real body, so he's not able to continue the chase on the Kha'Zix. So overall, we only suffered 1 casualty, which is not too bad. But yeah, so as I was alluding to just now, you are going to fall off really bad. And this basically means that in late game, you're not going to be as strong as compared to when you build normally. However, you can slowly switch your build to a normal build if you want to. So probably the first step is to of course start selling items for other items. Like you sell Collector for IE, for example, then you sell like your Essence Reaver for like a Phantom Dancer or something like that. Then you can sell, of course, you can sell like your Serpent's Fang and get like a GA, for example. So you will see a little bit of this buying and selling action later on in the game because we reached a really late stage of the game. So you will of course see this happening, but yeah, so it really falls off pretty bad in the late game. Here you can see we're just trying to DPS from the side. Of course, we don't have as much attack speed as a normal Caitlyn, but we still do a lot of damage. As you guys can see here, because obviously we still have a lot of AD and lethality. Here Lux is getting away. We can't quite reach her, so we're gonna have to pop the ulti to finish her off. We get at this point a very clean ace, and we're gonna go for the Baron. So now at this point in the match, seems like the match is going pretty I wouldn't say pretty smoothly, but it's going relatively okay. We have Kha'Zix getting pretty fed. He's 5-1 and 9. Then I'm pretty fed, 4-1 and 8, who has I've like 2k more gold than him, despite having less kills and assists than him. And then we have Vladimir, who is also doing alright, 7-3 and 8, pretty respectable. Of course, we still have a 0 and 12 Aatrox, but generally we're doing pretty fine. And on the enemy team is really mainly the Fizz and the Yone, who's kind of carrying. Yone, of course, the 13 and 3. And Fizz, you can see Fizz is 4 and 3, but he's only like less than 1k gold behind the Yone. So once again, sometimes it's just about farming well, it's not all about the kills. So regardless, here the next dragon is up. So here, because of Caitlyn's long range, you can actually do the dragon over the wall, which adds a layer of safety. But here, we're gonna pop over the wall. We're trying to kite out the Fizz. Unfortunately, Fizz kind of one-shots us, but we at the same time pretty much one-shot him. Pretty much at this point, with this quote-unquote assassin Caitlyn build, we kind of just assassinated him as he assassinated us. So kind of we just assassinated each other and took each other out of the equation, which did allow my team to actually pick up the second dragon. Or actually, this was the third dragon, sorry. Yeah, but it did allow us to pick up the third dragon, second dragon of our team. So, of course, we're getting to the later stages of the match. Vladimir is scaling up really well. He's 3 items now. He's trying to go in 1v3, but he has a Lulu by his side, gives him the ulti, and he is running them down. Kills the Jinx, is trying to run down the rest of them, kills the Lux as well, and Galio is trying to run for the hills. Gets the taunt onto Vladimir. Vladimir is chasing him down, pops the E, hits the W again, and is able to kill him. And here, I accidentally end up KSing the kill onto the Yone. I was just trying to help him out by popping the ulti, but unfortunately, ulti did so much damage that it just, just pretty much just killed him. Now, unfortunately, I did not pan to show the ulti damage, but that was insane ulti damage, and I pretty much just killed him from a decent amount of health. So anyways, here Fizz is the only champ on the enemy team remaining. Here we're trying our best to force down the tower, but here I realize I'm with the Aatrox, and the Aatrox is really useless. He's 0 and 13. He isn't gonna scare anybody. He has less gold than enemy team support, so I'm not gonna get baited by the Aatrox to stay close by. I'm just gonna back off, hit back through the enemy jungle, steal a little bit of enemy camps, a little bit of counter jungling. Secure this Skull Crab as well. Baron's coming up in about a minute or so time, so we do want to, of course, secure the vision around the Baron area. And we're kind of progressing to the late-ish stages of the game already, where we're 17 minutes into the game. Okay, of course, this is where Elder Dragon's going to spawn really soon, and of course, Baron's about to respawn, because we did take the first Baron just now. And we're almost full build at this point. We've gotten the Stasis Enchant, we've got 4 full items, and we're working on the 5th item now. Of course, that being the Bloodthirster. Now here, I'm just picking up the blue buff. Of course, Caitlyn, especially with this build, spams spells a lot, so it does run on mana decently quickly. So Baron in 20 seconds and Elder in 25, about a 5-second desync in terms of the spawn timers. And you can see that the enemy team is actually hovering more around Baron area. So this kind of leads me to believe that they are going to be doing Baron instead. So here we have 2 options here. We either can go there to contest the Baron, or we can trade and take the Elder. So my team pretty much decides here to trade and take the Elder instead of contesting the Baron. But honestly, I think that probably the better move would actually have been to contest the Baron, because the main reason you want to do this is both teams are pretty even in terms of power level. So by contesting the Baron, the enemy team would have wasted their spell on the Baron, and they would have had their defenses lowered by the Baron. So when you walk into to contest the Baron, as long as you walk as a team together, you have a probably higher chance to win the fight, considering that both teams are pretty equal in terms of power level. But instead we went for the trade. So they get Baron, we get Elder. It's still an okay trade, because with Elder we can still try to find a team fight win, and the Baron just kind of prevents us from pushing in really quickly. So here Fizz actually plays very, very well. He actually goes in from the side and assassinates me. I actually managed to kill him before he kills me, but I did not notice he ulted. So I actually had my stasis up. I did not realize he ulted me, and I did not hit my stasis, which is a pretty severe mistake, because at this point he has basically traded 1 for 2 with me and Aatrox, and pretty much removed our Elders. Now thankfully Vladimir is now really fat. He's 10, 3, and 11. He's pretty much 1v9ing at the moment. Of course not really, because Lulu is kind of buffing him up as well. But at this point, he is super duper strong, and he honestly probably could go in 1v3 onto the 3 of them with the Lulu, and he probably would kill all 3 of them, just judging by how much damage he's doing and the healing that he's getting as well. In the meanwhile, Jinx gets assassinated by Kha'Zix. Vladimir is clearing out the lane, and Lulu is trying to help Kha'Zix make his escape. So me and Aatrox have just respawned. I'm just going to top lane to clear out the lane itself. Nothing too interesting to see there. So here you can see Kha'Zix taking a very greedy recall. gets caught by the Fizz, and Vladimir is also kind of getting caught. Does immune the Fizz ulti using his pool, and he is now stuck in a 1v3 situation. Unfortunately, a little bit too much CC. He does manage to kill the Lux before he goes down, but that's just a little bit too much CC, so he could not really 1v3 in this instance. So here, get the huge ult onto Yone. Just look at that ult damage. We finally managed to show off the ult damage. He's now 1 HP. Galio's coming in from the side. I'm trying to DP as the Galio. Yone is coming back in, still at 1 HP, so we're just going to destroy him. Now we're just going to go for the Galio next. Galio is decently tanky. He has the Rod of Ages, and he also has the Randuin's Omen, so he's decently tanky. Does take a little bit of time to take him down. He is 1 and 9 though, so you know, the fact that we still take so much effort to take him down kind of just shows either how little damage we do or how tanky he is, but either way, not really good news for us. So here, the game is really, really long at this point. We're 21 minutes into the game. Third Baron is actually gonna spawn at this point. We've reached full build. So this is where we're gonna start buying and selling items to, of course, make our build better. So here, red buff is up. We're taking the red buff. Vladimir is full build at this point. Lulu's pretty much full build except for selling her support item. And Kha'Zix is almost there. On the enemy team, obviously, Yone is full build. Fizz is full build. Yeah, so pretty much that's kind of the situation. Obviously, on my team is mainly me and Vladimir carrying the team, whereas on their team is mainly Fizz and Yone. So really exciting kind of circumstances here. So here, I had to walk London to thin the minion wave so that the minion wave does not take the inhibitor. But in the meantime, my team kind of gets into a fight. Of course, Baron is the next objective coming up, like right now. So here, I'm trying to chunk out. Look at this chunk on the Jinx, by the way. Huge chunk onto the Jinx here. I'm trying to assassinate Yone. Yone is really low. Does go down. I try to flash forward for the Jinx, but Jinx ends up just getting excited and just killing everybody. So here, I'm setting the traps to hope someone just walks into them. Fizz tries to go for me, but I am able to actually get the kill. Unfortunately, I make the mistake of turning around and getting into range of Galio actually catching me. I should have just continued running, and this would have been way better for me because I wouldn't have gotten caught by Galio and killed by Jinx. But yeah, unfortunately, we did make that mistake, which pretty much means that they can get the Baron. Now, unfortunately, Galio is kind of not too intelligent when it comes to this situation. Jinx is actually pinging for Baron, but Galio is not doing it. So if Galio just tanked the Baron and Jinx took the Baron, the enemy team could have gotten a free Baron. But Galio, for some reason, does not want to do the Baron. So enemy team ends up missing out on the Baron, unfortunately for them, but really fortunately for us. So in the meantime, my team is slowly starting to respawn. Elder and Dragon are both up. So obviously, the most logical thing to do is Kha'Zix is hightailing it to the Elder Dragon. Aatrox obviously has no idea where he is on the map. He is apparently farming the wolves when both objectives are up, and he is just pretty much being useless. Here, Kha'Zix is getting caught, almost gets one shot, but does manage to pop the stasis. He's trying to hop away. Aatrox has finally come to the fight. He's running in. Our 1 in 16 Aatrox trying to cause trouble for the enemy team. Doesn't really end up doing anything. I end up getting a good ulti onto the Jinx to chunk her out to like 1 HP. But unfortunately, she's not quite dead yet. Fizz trying to come over the wall. I'm dodging it with my E. We do kill the Fizz, and we're going for the Yone next, which we do manage to secure. And now we're just going to launch pot shots over the wall. We're hopping over because Elder Dragon is really low. And Jinx is getting excited again, causing disaster. I sold my collector for a GA, and because of that, I managed to revive. We actually pick up the Elder Dragon, and everybody on the map dies other than me. So at this point, I'm starting to realize the situation is desperate. Yone is like full build. Jinx at this point is nearly full build as well. She's fully skilled up. Fizz can just one-shot me instantly. So I need to end the game now before it's too late. So here I'm just pushing down the mid lane and trying my best to end the game. So here I'm gonna, of course, just go for the inhibitor. We do kill the inhibitor pretty quickly, and we're going to go for the base. Unfortunately, we only have 2 minions left alive, and enemy minion wave just spawned. Maybe I could have actually tanked a couple of shots from the Nexus, and I might have been able to end, but this is really, really difficult to estimate because the Nexus is gonna do a lot of damage to me because obviously I'm a squishy ADC. But if I protected my 2 minions, I might have actually been able to get in just like, I don't know, 3 more shots before the Fizz and the Galio comes, and I might have been able to try to end the game, especially because I still had flash and exhaust. But game does not end up ending, and now the next objective is up, which is going to be the Baron. Now ideally here I want to go back to buy and sell items because I want to replace some of my quote-unquote more useless items like my GA that has popped, for example. But unfortunately, Baron is up, no time to back, fight's breaking out. So here we're just going to focus whoever we can. Yone is coming in, I get a huge shield from Lulu, I'm trying to focus down everybody. Jinx unfortunately just goes ham. And unfortunately here, Jinx is getting excited again, and at this point in time, we've just been completely outskilled by Jinx and the enemy team as well, and unfortunately we all go down, which basically means that with the long death timers 25 minutes into the game, we are indeed going to end up losing the game. Yeah, of course, you guys know I do post losses from time to time, especially because in this match, it kind of showed how Lethality Caitlyn worked, and it shows like how Lethality Caitlyn still does a lot of damage. You can see here I'm finding like selling my stuff and buying like IE and Phantom Dancer, but at this point, I already know it's too late. I'm just trying to kind of just show an example of what you guys should be doing when you reach this stage in the game. But yeah, unfortunately, we do end up losing. So hopefully you guys still enjoyed the video and did see how Lethality Caitlyn works. I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual here. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.